Hey there, Dave here. Okay,
that was a little...
Hey, how's it going? Dave here.
And Joe, how's it going, guys?
We are T&D Video Games. We own a small video game store in Ottawa. I shouldn't say small, actually. We own a very large...
It's huge.
...store, so big. Thank you for clicking and thank you for watching. Today we're going to be talking about two topics. We're going to be talking about pet peeves of owning a video game store and
things we like about owning a video game store.
So we're going to dip into the negative and then we're going to finish with the positive, all right? So we've owned our store for a little over 6 years now. We've been selling for, I think, close to 9 years.
Yeah.
And you know, I think a lot of these things are things that you'll see like in the general collector community, but we're trying to make things that are a little more unique to owning a store. So do you have a pet peeve that you have owning a video game store?
Yeah, so I would say my biggest one, and it's pretty obvious, people who pull a game off the shelf, look at it, and then put it backwards so you can't see it, or they'll take it from here and then just throw it over there. So they'll go like this. They'll take the games like this, and then they'll go like that. And then you got to go fix it, and it's just frustrating. I mean, when I'm shopping, I just put the thing back the way I got it. So,
or they put it back unalphabetized, and like, because we actually go through the shelves and we alphabetize things to make it look all nice and pretty. So
that's not as bad as putting it back backwards. Like, you actually have to put effort into putting it back the wrong way.
Yeah,
and then the next person can't even tell what game it is.
That's true. I wrote a list down. I have like a bunch of like things that apparently are pet peeves for me.
That's a lot of stuff. You're a very angry person.
I know. This is a lot. I should show this list afterwards, okay? It's a pet peeve of mine when you give an offer to someone, you message them, and then they just like never message you again. They don't say, okay, thank you for the quote, or thank you, I'll think about it, which a lot of people do. And I want to say, like, a lot of people do that. But it's a pet peeve of mine when someone just never gets back to me.
Yeah,
like,
just say thanks but no thanks, or I'm thinking about it, or just let us know.
When someone asks you, hey, this is what I'd like to trade in or sell, can I get an offer? You give the offer, and then like one of two things happens. You either accept it and go for it, or you say no thanks and you move on. But sometimes you get people that are like angry, right? Like,
oh yeah,
like
they don't like the value, but they take it personally.
Yeah.
So I would say we'll get into this in another video in more detail, but basically we'll look at your list, look at how much of that stuff we have in stock and how fast can we sell it, and we'll come up with a value based on that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think some people, I get it, games were $80 when you bought them, but a lot of games aren't worth what you paid for them. Some of them are worth more money now, so our quotes will reflect that. If you have stuff that's worth money, the offer will reflect that.
Yeah.
And I think people take it personally, whereas we don't look at it. We don't look at who's selling us the stuff. We just look at the stuff, and that's how we get the offer. I don't care really who it is that's selling me something. It's going to be the same offer regardless of who it is. So yeah, I would say people taking your offer personally when it's that's not like, what it's meant to be.
You know, we're like pretty chill guys. We love the gaming community. We love retro games. Like, we're going to give you as much as we can. And you know, and then the other thing is, if you don't want to take our offer, we're never like insulted. Like, if you don't take our offer, that's like, I get it. Like, if you want to sell stuff individually, try to make a bit more money, that's cool. Yes, that's a pet peeve of mine.
Yeah. Okay.
So, what's in the one of yours?
So next one. So in this case, we make a deal.
Yeah.
And then person shows up.
So you have a deal for the games that
trade in
ahead of time.
So we've given a quote ahead of time. They say they're showing up. They either show up with half the stuff or a bunch of extra stuff. That's not as big of a deal. It's when they show up. Typically what happens is, of course, the better games in a lot will be worth more than the games that aren't as desirable. The value we give you, even though it's one number, the majority of the value is going to be in the stuff that we need or want that will sell. And what will happen is people will show up with half the stuff. So in my mind, I've made a deal and you're showing up at the last minute and you're trying to change the deal. And it's not that bad when the store's not busy, but when the store's busy and someone shows up and they've modified the deal. So what typically happens is they'll take half of the stuff away and it's all the stuff that we actually need. And in their mind, I feel that they're expecting to get half the value because half the stuff is there. Whereas then I'll quickly update the quote in my head and I'm going to come out with a value that's a fraction of what I said before because you're withholding the better stuff.
Because they could remove like 1 or 2 games,
and that's half the quote.
Away half the quote. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think I find that frustrating, especially when the store's busy and I'm trying to help customers, and we try and arrange our deals ahead of time to help save time, because we're only open once a week and we're very busy on the day that we're open. So that's kind of how we like to structure things. Now, if you show up with extra stuff, great. You may have to wait. And I guess the pet peeve would be people who are annoyed that they have to wait a few minutes
which
extra
rarely
stuff
happens,
yeah.
right?
So that's the rare case. It's typically people removing the better items from a lot and then kind of expecting close to the same value.
And like Joe and I collected for so many years prior to owning a store. So like we get it. Like when you're selling stuff or you're trading stuff, you want to get maximum value. But as store owners, we have to be very conscious of how much stock we have and how quickly something will sell. I find the last couple of years, everybody is trying to sell a Nintendo Wii. We have so many Nintendo Wiis, and we might sell one a month if we're lucky. So
we have Wiis.
Yeah, we have Wiis. We have Wiis. And we have maybe 30 or 40. We have broken ones that we're not even fixing because what's the point? And so we can't offer a lot of money on those, right? And so I know that they are worth money, but when you have 30 or 40 of something, you can't really give a lot. So sometimes I also feel bad. Part of owning game stores, I feel bad sometimes with the offers we give, because I'm sorry, I can't give you a lot for that.
I get that you paid $400 for that 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Especially for that example, there's more value in the games and the controllers. So we'll actually have people come in and say, we have a Wii with 20 games. I'm great. What are the games? How many controllers does it have?
The games are worth so much more.
And the remotes, that's where the value is. And then they'll come in with just the system. Oh, I've decided to sell the game separately. How much for the system? And I'm kind of not interested because I have 40 of them in my storage unit. I don't need a 41st one. So
that's a pet peeve too. When you get consoles traded in with no controllers, because the controllers are often worth more than the consoles.
Yeah. So I guess it's basically people and. The other thing too is it's the principle, right? We've agreed to a deal, and then you're coming and modifying the deal after we've kind of done a virtual handshake. So, if we make an offer to you, and then you show up to the store, we're not going to change it and say, "Oh, actually, no, we're going to give you less." We would never do that.
Yeah.
So, we kind of expect the same thing on the other side.
Maybe 1 or 2 more, because and again, I want to say these are the rare exceptions, right? But they do exist, right? I think another one that's a weird one that happens from time to time is someone comes in with something and it's a $20 game, and they think that you're going to give them $20 for it, and then they can go buy another game for $20.
Oh yeah, they don't understand how trade works.
The 1-for-1 trade,
yes.
Right? and it's okay, so I have a game, you sell it for $20. I see you have another copy on the shelf that you sell for $20. I want you buy mine for $20, and I'm going to take another $20 game. That's not how trading works with any business at all. Any business will give you a fraction of what it's worth, right? I traded my kids' old skates at a store called Play It Again Sports. They give me 30% of what they're going to sell it for. We don't even go that low in a lot of games. We usually give 50 or 60% depending on what it is.
Yep.
And so you can't do that, because otherwise you're just like a library. Here, you trade the game, I take a game, everything's good. It's there has to be something in it for the business, right? So that's kind of a pet peeve.
Yeah. If you're not making a profit on every transaction, then you're going to go out of business.
And 98% of people understand that. There's always that 1 or 2 that are just I don't understand. And it's
yeah. And I think
I don't know how to explain it.
I think a lot of times though, I'll give them that spiel, and 99% of the time they're kind of on board with it. They're oh, okay, yeah, I never thought of it that way. So I think a lot of this stuff, they don't have an ill intent towards us when it happens, but it's just frustrating. But typically, once we explain to them how things work, it usually resolves itself. I would say.
So I'm out of pet peeves.
You're out of pet peeves.
All right. Yeah. Do you have any more, or do you want to go into the positives?
No. I think that's good. I think we need to get into the positives. Yeah. They far outweigh the negatives. So.
Yeah. Because we definitely don't want to come across this is not a video to complain. We're not complaining. It's more these things happen, and when they happen, it's just okay, it's happening again. So what's one of the ups about owning a video game store? What are the positives?
So one of the things I actually I find it very relaxing. So we talked about people messing up the shelf and putting things out of order. I love alphabetizing stuff.
Yeah.
That's actually fun for me.
Well, look at your shells, man. They're alphabetized, they're beautiful.
So to grab so you should come over and mess them up, and then I can have fun.
Before I leave tonight, I'm just gonna
like So I actually like culling a section. Like that's the other thing, like removing doubles and triples, because we have limited space. So I really like cleaning up a section, re-alphabetizing it, making it look good.
So I just finished pricing all these 360 games right here. I've alphabetized them as well. And I have to find room on our 360 shelf here, which is honestly not looking pretty good. So I think what I'm gonna do is go through here, pull any doubles, re-alphabetize everything, and get those games on the shelves. So I finished re-alphabetizing and culling the 360 section, and it's looking really good.
Our goal is to make it easy for you to find what you're looking for. Now, over time, sections get messy. Again, we're only open 1 day a week. I remember at one point we were going in 1 night a week during the week just to clean up the store because it was so messy. We've got a pretty good handle on it now.
We bought a storage unit.
Yeah.
To take stuff out. So our goal was to have 1 or 2 copies of a game, which we've kept to this day.
Yeah, we've done really well.
We've done really well. Maybe 3 copies if it's an excellent selling game. But yeah, like when we were like taking stuff out, it was
like therapeutic.
It was therapeutic, and then we're like, oh my god, we have so many games. What do? We need to do sales.
Yeah, so I'd say organizing the store is actually a lot of fun. But again, don't come in and mess it up just to have me organize it. It'll get messy naturally.
Yeah. Another benefit of that too is when you pull games off the shelf and you're organizing, you'll sometimes find extra copies of games that you maybe put on the shelf and you're like, oh cool, I actually have more stock than I thought I had.
Yeah, you're worried that you're low on a game and then you find a few copies.
I'll say one of the probably the biggest positive of owning a store is the people you meet, and that might sound super obvious, but like Joe and I feel like we've created a community. We get people that exclusively shop at our store. We know they like shopping at our store. They come in, like, I love having conversations with everyone that comes in. I'm reluctant to name names because I'm gonna forget people, but I'm just gonna name a couple. Like obviously Dan and Mel, you guys come in. We absolutely love talking to you guys. Retro Mike is another one. Like I like when he comes in with his brother.
But Dan's like a third employee.
Yeah, so. When Dan comes in,
he sells stuff.
Dan won't let me film him either. But Dan will come in and he'll stay there for like 2 hours behind the counter. We're just chatting about games and about life, and it's fun. Like the store has an awesome vibe,
and the customers like him.
The customers like him. But just like talking to people, and I like it when. I like it too when I'm just in the store and somebody asks me a question and I have no idea. Like maybe they're asking me about a PS4 game or Xbox One. I don't play those games, right? So then I'll literally ask like another customer who's probably a regular that comes every week. I'm like, hey, do you know anything about this game? And they're like, oh yeah, that's an action platformer, blah 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 blah.
Yeah, and then the customers are talking to each other.
And then the customers start talking. So like, it's not just a store; it's like a little community, and I think people love going there and having those interactions. That is one of the biggest perks that I would not have thought of prior to this.
Yeah,
right?
For sure.
So seeing the regulars come in, the conversations that we have, like those are awesome.
Yeah, because even if it's a slow sales day, if someone comes in, a regular, and you just have a conversation with them, that just makes your day better.
Absolutely.
So my other one this is probably my favorite one. I love when someone new comes to the store. So we're inside a flea market, so we get a lot of just walk-up traffic. They didn't come there specifically to see us. And I love when they come in and see all of the old systems and they just kind of nerd out, geek out, and they're like, oh, I can't believe you have a whole wall of Nintendo stuff. I used to play that when I was a kid. And that leads to kind of my favorite thing. I love when someone comes in and buys a system that they had when they were a kid, and then they buy the first few games for it. Yeah. So if someone comes in and buys an NES or a Super Nintendo, and then they'll buy an NES, they grab Mario 3, and then I'll recommend a few games, remind them of a few games. They'll grab Mario 3, Mario 2 is a big one, Blades of Steel, Excitebike, like all the staples that they had growing up. I just love when they walk in and everything that they had when they were a kid and are looking for is on the shelf, and it's all there in one spot for them. Mm-hmm. And they're just super excited to buy it, take it home, play it. I'd say that's probably one of my favorite things, is getting to experience that with the customer when they're rediscovering kind of like their childhood.
Yeah, totally. You get to also make recommendations for them too.
Yeah.
Right? Or they might be like, I played this game and like I remember there was some jumping and there was some, you know, this, and you're like, oh, Mario 2, and they're like, oh yeah, that's a game.
Yeah. And then those people typically, like, they'll buy a starter set and then they come back, and then I like seeing them again and recommending kind of like those follow-on games.
Another one of the positives owning a store, and this one totally caught me by surprise once we started to own the store, was that people would come into the store with things to sell or trade, and you don't know what's coming in. And granted, a lot of the stuff that comes in is a lot of common stuff, right? A lot of 360, a lot of PS3, but once in a while you'll get some really good, obscure, or even rare stuff that shows up that you weren't expecting. And those days, those surprises are awesome. And like when I'm working at the store and I'm doing these trades, sometimes I'll take a little picture and send it to Joe and be like, hey, we just got the Creon Conquest. And you'd be like, sweet. Like, you know, a rare, obscure game that we don't get every day. And just getting those games or those items, it's pretty cool. I love the surprises and like not knowing what's going to show up.
Yeah, that reminds me of a lot we got, I'm going to say 5 or 6 months ago. The guy showed up with the most random stuff, but it was an Atari Jaguar with 3 or 4 controllers, and then he had that Zelda Famicom game, and then he had the Zelda Game Boy Color
and like
game.
All of that is sold since...
It was all weird stuff, and then actually Dan and Mel ended up grabbing the Jaguar.
Yeah.
Like they literally sat on the shelf for maybe an hour, and then they showed up and bought it. But yeah, when you get those obscure weird things that you don't see that often, and when you show up at the store, you have no idea what's going to come in that day.
You have a small idea, like when someone shows up with a bag and you're like, okay, it's probably 360 games, which is okay, don't get me wrong, like, but you know, when you have literally hundreds or at this point thousands of 360 games, it's not that exciting. To get like obscure rare stuff or like, you know, really good Nintendo, you know, that's always exciting. So, and then to sell it to people that are looking for it as well, right? So
yeah, well, just based on what you said there, I like when people come in and they see something that they've been looking for forever.
Yeah. Or
if they're a full set collector and they're like, oh, like even if it's like some obscure sports game that isn't really worth a lot of money, but you don't see that often. Like what's that? Like Mia Hamm's Soccer for the Nintendo 64.
Yeah, totally.
That's like a $20 game, but it's just obscure. So I love helping local collectors complete their sets. So when we get obscure stuff in, and then they come find and they're, oh, I've been looking for this game forever. I'm happy to find like, you know, these 5 or 6 things in one spot.
Totally.
I think that's pretty awesome too.
Helping collectors or helping people shopping is very rewarding, and especially around Christmas time when you get a lot of moms coming in and they'll like, you see them, they walk in, they've got their phone, they're looking at it, and I'll walk up, I'll say, hey, are you know, welcome to the store, you're looking to buy, and they're like, yeah, I'm here to buy games for my son or my daughter, and like I just like, here, give me your phone, I'll help you, and I'll go and I'll find as many games from that list. Often I find, I don't know if you find this, it's like really like good taste. You know what I mean? It's expensive.
Your kid
stuff.
Wants like a $300 Super Nintendo game.
And I tell him, like, your son has really good taste, meaning he wants expensive, rare Japanese, you know, RPGs. You're like, these are not $5 games, and they're like, I know. Anyway, there's a lot of perks to owning a store, you know, but like the community is big. The games that get traded in. You know, the relationships you make, like all that stuff. Obviously, owning a game store is pretty cool too, right? Like,
well, yeah,
we love it. We've been doing this for like 9 years now, and Joe and I talk every single day by text. Like, there isn't a day that goes by unless I'm on like my camping trip and I don't bring my phone with me.
Yeah, those are rough days.
It's rough day for Joe.
Dark days.
For 5 days a year, I don't have my phone on me. Okay. It's like, Ma. Anyway.
Crystal calls you my boyfriend.
Yeah.
So. Are you texting your boyfriend today?
Totally.
Yep.
I keep my phone at home, and Dad's be like, Joe texted you, and I'm like, well, this is going to be important. I have to look at it. You know, it's like, no, but you know, there's a lot of positives, obviously. Yeah.
So as you can see, the positives more than outweigh the pet peeves.
Oh, totally.
We just kind of wanted to do a video that kind of highlighted some of the annoyances, but then really highlighted the fun things about owning a store.
Yeah. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't subscribed already, please be sure to subscribe. Click that like button, and we'll see you again.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.